Hi everyone, this is the Nordic Venture Show, your guide to the exciting world of Nordic startups and venture capital. In today's episode, we're exploring a startup called Solar Foods.
Food from thin air.
That sounds crazy.
I know, right? Like it's straight out of some sci-fi movie, but that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Yeah.
Solar Foods.
Right.
A company that's claiming to make food literally from the air.
Yeah, that's their big claim.
It is, and we've got excerpts from their website.
Okay.
Specifically, their About Us, and this is our stories sections.
Perfect.
To help us break this whole thing down.
Let's see what they're all about.
So let's jump right in.
Right.
What really stood out to me reading through this material was the problem that they're trying to solve.
Right.
Which is...
A big one.
It is a big one.
It's a huge problem.
You know, feeding a growing population on a planet that's already...
Under strain?
Yeah, under strain from how we're producing food right now.
Yeah, their website mentions...
All of it.
All the issues, like the land we use for livestock.
Oh, yeah, they talk about...
The pressure on fish stocks.
It's a lot.
It's kind of alarming when you
really
look at it.
And it makes you think, okay,
yeah,
maybe we do need...
a radical new solution.
Yeah, a different approach.
Yeah, and their answer is this, Solein.
Okay.
It's a protein that they say is grown using just air.
Really, just air?
Air, electricity,
okay,
and a natural fermentation process.
I gotta be honest, that sounds a little...
Like magic.
Yeah, a little bit. Like, how's that even possible?
Right, so think of it this way.
Okay.
Imagine like these tiny chefs,
Okay.
little microbes that are way more efficient than plants at converting resources into food.
Okay.
But instead of sunlight, they're using electricity.
Okay.
And instead of soil, they're thriving on carbon dioxide and nutrients.
So it's like a...
It's like a super efficient self-contained farm.
So they're kind of like...
Yeah.
Hacking the system a little bit.
Yeah.
Using these microbes to just like...
A shortcut?
Yeah, a shortcut to protein.
Exactly.
And what's the end result? What would it...
You get this dried powder called Solein, and you can put it into all sorts of foods.
Really?
From pasta to plant-based alternatives.
Interesting. And one thing that I noticed that they highlight a lot is the environmental benefits.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially like the water usage compared to like traditional agriculture.
It's a huge difference.
It is, yeah.
And it's not just water.
Right.
We're talking about like greenhouse gas emissions.
Land usage.
It's pretty astounding.
Yeah, and I think they're really trying to sell this idea that
this could decouple food production from the limits of agriculture.
Like what we've always known. Like we need land.
Yeah.
We need water.
And think about the possibility.
It's so huge.
If you could just produce protein anywhere.
Yeah.
Regardless of climate or land availability.
So they've painted a pretty compelling picture so far.
They have.
But how far along are they in actually making this a reality?
Well,
is this just like a cool concept, or are they actually making this stuff?
This is where things get really interesting, because they actually launched something called Factory 01 back in 2024.
Okay.
And they claim it's the world's first air-based food factory.
Really?
And they're already working with companies to use Solein in actual products.
So this isn't just like a...
It's not just an idea.
Yeah, it's not just a research project.
No, they're actually putting it out there in the world.
Wow, okay.
They've even achieved GRAS status in the U.S. for Solein.
Okay.
And they're collaborating with NASA on the Deep Space Food Challenge.
What?
Yeah. So it seems like...
It's pretty impressive.
It is. It shows you how seriously this technology is being taken.
Yeah, so color me intrigued.
I'm with you.
But if they can really produce the Solein with like such a minimal environmental footprint, what does that mean for like the future of food and agriculture as we know it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. And it's something that we're going to explore further as we continue this deep dive.
Absolutely.
But before we get there, we need to understand exactly how this Solein is made.
Right.
Like, what's the process?
What's the magic behind this protein powder?
Yeah, what is the magic?
Well, let's take a closer look at how Solar Foods describes their production process.
Okay.
They call it a hyperdrive version of a natural phenomena.
A hyperdrive version. Okay, I'm listening.
No, imagine capturing moisture from the air.
Okay.
That's the water for the microbes to grow.
Okay.
Then they feed these microbes carbon dioxide.
Okay.
Which they capture from different sources.
So it's almost like they've created this self-contained ecosystem that's just feeding these microbes what they need to survive and thrive.
But like any living thing, they need more than just carbon dioxide and water.
Right.
So they also give them these essential nutrients.
Okay.
Like a carefully balanced diet for the microbes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then comes the fermentation process.
Right, like we see with like...
Exactly like beer.
Beer or yogurt.
Yeah, they put these microbes in a controlled environment where they can multiply and grow.
Okay.
And through this fermentation process, they convert that carbon dioxide and those nutrients into Solein.
So they're basically taking
this age-old
process of fermentation
that we've been doing for centuries.
And like applying it.
In a completely new way.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing how nature kind of provides the blueprint.
Yeah, it really is.
For these technological advancements.
It is.
And then the last step is they dry this resulting biomass.
Okay.
Which leaves behind that nutrient-rich powder.
Which is the
Solein.
So what you're saying is...
They found a way to use these tiny organisms to create food from thin air.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And they claim that
the Solein
they'd be used in like a wide variety of...
Pretty much anything.
Food products.
From baked goods to plant-based meats.
Interesting.
But of course, with any new technology, there's going to be challenges.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like what kind of challenges are we talking about?
Well, scaling up production to meet global demand.
Right. That's a big one.
It's a huge hurdle.
And the cost,
it
needs to be competitive with traditional protein sources.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I imagine those are some pretty significant challenges.
They are.
But the potential benefit.
But they're enormous.
They're huge.
Both for the planet and for feeding everyone.
Yeah.
It makes you think, if we can produce food this way.
Like independent of like traditional agricultural practices.
How would that change the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a huge question.
It is.
But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's talk about the nutritional value.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Of Solein.
Sure.
Is it actually like a viable substitute?
Yeah.
For traditional protein sources?
Well, Solar Foods describes Solein as protein in its most natural form.
Okay.
And they claim it's a complete protein.
Go ahead.
With all 9 essential amino acids.
So it's not just...
It's not just about being eco-friendly.
Right.
It's about nutrition, too.
It's got to have the nutritional value.
Easy to back it up.
Yeah. And they say it's a good source of iron.
Okay.
B vitamins and fiber.
So it's a nutritional powerhouse.
It seems that way.
But let's be honest here.
Sure.
How does it taste?
The big question.
Right. Because you can have the most sustainable, environmentally friendly food.
Right.
But if it tastes terrible...
Nobody's going to eat it.
Nobody's going to eat it. So what do they have to say about that?
Well, they say that Solein is incredibly versatile.
Okay.
It's got a neutral flavor.
Okay.
And it can be added to pretty much any dish.
Okay.
Without changing the taste too much.
That's pretty amazing.
It is.
So that means you can use it for like sweet and savory.
Exactly. You could put it in smoothies.
Okay.
Baked goods. Pasta sauces.
Interesting.
The possibilities are pretty much endless.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could be pretty revolutionary.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
And talk about how Solein is being used in the real world. Because they do mention partnerships and products, so let's dig into that a little bit.
Let's do it. Yeah, the real world applications are really key to understanding the potential here.
Right, because it's one thing to talk about it in theory.
Right.
But it's another to see it actually.
Out there in the world.
Yeah. Being used.
And they've actually partnered with companies in Singapore.
Really?
To create products using Solein.
So they're already on the market?
Yeah, they're out there.
Wow. What kind of products are we talking about?
They've been a little bit secretive about the specifics.
Okay.
But from what I've gathered, we're talking about things like protein bars.
Okay.
Alternative dairy products, even some bakery items.
So it's making its way into like everyday foods.
Yeah, it seems so.
That's pretty impressive for such a new technology.
It is, and remember, Factory 01,
right?
That's not just for small batches.
Right.
They're aiming to scale up production significantly.
Yeah, they're talking about like disrupting the entire food industry. But can they really compete with traditional protein sources?
Right, like on price and scale.
Yeah.
That's the big question. They say that Solein will eventually be cheaper to produce than traditional protein, but we'll have to see.
Yeah. That remains to be seen.
It all comes down to how efficiently they can scale up.
Makes sense. What about using Solein for animal feed?
Oh, yeah.
I saw that mentioned on their website.
That's another interesting application.
Yeah.
Think about the potential to reduce the impact of livestock farming.
Yeah.
If they can replace soy or other feed crops with Solein,
Right.
It could be huge for sustainability.
Yeah, it's like a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Not just human food, but the entire food chain.
Exactly.
And then there's the whole space exploration thing.
Oh, yeah. Working with NASA.
You don't see that every day?
Pretty unique.
It is. What does that tell us?
Well, it shows you the potential of Solein to solve problems in extreme environments.
Right.
Like imagine growing food on a space station or even a future Martian colony.
Without needing
land or traditional farming.
That's like science fiction coming to life.
It really is.
Okay, but let's bring it back down to earth for a second.
For sure.
We've talked a lot about the environmental benefits and all these potential applications.
Right.
But I'm curious about like the consumer side of things.
What do you mean?
Like how are people reacting to this?
Oh, interesting.
Is there any pushback?
To eating something made from air?
Yeah.
And what about the texture?
Yeah, is it actually enjoyable to eat?
Those are great questions.
Yeah.
It's still early days.
Okay.
But so far, people seem cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
There's definitely a wow factor.
Right.
But as for the taste and texture,
yeah,
it really depends on how they use it.
Right. It's not like you're eating like a spoonful
of
Solein powder.
Exactly. It's about how it functions as an ingredient.
Exactly. And from what I've read, it seems to be doing well.
Okay.
The neutral taste makes it adaptable.
And early reports say the texture is comparable to traditional protein sources.
So no strange aftertaste?
Not that I've heard.
No weird mushy consistency?
No, but consumer perception is everything.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
If people aren't convinced that it tastes good,
right,
looks good, fits into their lifestyle,
yeah,
then all the environmental benefits might not be enough.
Okay, so there's like a marketing hurdle to overcome.
Definitely.
People need to be convinced that this isn't
some weird science experiment.
Yeah.
That this is actually food.
Right. It needs to be familiar and desirable.
Right.
And that's where those early products are so important. If they can create delicious and appealing foods with Solein,
yeah,
it could really help build trust.
Yeah, it's all about showcasing like the culinary possibilities.
Exactly.
Proving that it can be used to make food that people actually want to eat.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another important point.
Okay.
Regulation and safety.
Right, because this is cutting edge stuff.
It is. Are there concerns about like the safety of eating this?
That's a valid question.
Yeah.
And Solar Foods has been pretty transparent about it.
Okay.
They've gone through a lot of testing, regulatory processes.
Yeah.
They've achieved GRIA status in the U.S.
Which means?
Which means it's generally recognized as safe to eat.
Okay, so they're ticking all the boxes.
It seems so.
When it comes to safety and regulation.
Yeah.
That's good. That's reassuring.
Yeah.
But what about the long-term outlook?
Right.
Where do they go from here?
Well, their goal is nothing short of revolutionizing the global food system.
Wow.
They're talking about building multiple factories, partnering with big food brands, and ultimately making Solein a mainstream protein source.
That's a bold vision.
It is.
But if they can pull it off...
The implications are huge.
Yeah, we could be looking at a future where food production isn't limited by land, water, or climate.
That's the dream, isn't it?
It is.
A future where sustainable, nutritious food is available to everyone.
Yeah.
No matter where they live.
It sounds almost utopian.
It does.
But then again, who would have thought we'd be talking about making food from thin air?
A few years ago.
Yeah, a few years ago.
Exactly. And that's what makes this so fascinating.
Yeah.
It shows you what humans can do.
Right.
Our ability to find solutions to seemingly impossible challenges.
So what's the next chapter in this story?
Right.
What are the key milestones that we should be watching for?
It feels like we're witnessing something really groundbreaking.
I think so too.
If Solar Foods can figure out the scaling and make it cost-effective, this could really shake things up.
Yeah, the next few years will be key for them.
What should we be looking for?
Well, are they expanding beyond those partnerships in Singapore?
Okay.
Are they making deals with big food companies in other parts of the world?
Right. Like, are they moving beyond just these initial...
Yeah, proof of concept.
Are they actually growing?
Exactly.
Okay, so those are some things to watch for.
But what about those bigger questions we were talking about?
Right.
Like addressing food insecurity, reshaping agriculture. How realistic is all of that?
It could happen.
Yeah.
Imagine communities facing drought or limited land.
Yeah.
Being able to produce their own protein.
Locally.
Yeah, with minimal resources.
That's a pretty powerful idea.
Yeah.
But can it actually scale?
Right.
To meet the needs of like the entire planet?
That's a big question.
It is a huge question.
And can it be done equitably?
Right.
So everyone benefits.
Because there's always a risk with new technologies that it could just worsen existing inequalities.
Absolutely, if it's not implemented carefully.
So it's not just about watching what Solar Foods does, but about how this gets integrated into
the whole system.
Yeah, the whole food system. And I think that's something important for our listeners to think about.
Yeah, pay attention to the conversations about food justice.
Sustainable
Access, these are the things that will shape the future of food.
Regardless of the technology.
Yeah, exactly.
So while Solein might sound like something out of a sci-fi movie,
It kind of does.
it really does. It's making us think about some really big questions about how we produce and consume food.
Especially in a world with so many challenges.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
It is.
And it really shows that innovation isn't just about creating new technologies.
Right.
It's about using those technologies to make things better.
For everyone.
Yeah, for everyone.
Well,
I think that's a good point to end on.
I agree.
I think we've reached the end of our deep dive
into the world of solar foods and Solein.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It has.
And it leaves us with a lot to think about.
For sure.
Can they really do what they're setting out to do?
Will it change our food system for the better?
Yeah, only time will tell.
We'll have to wait and see.
But it's definitely a story worth following.
It is, and it highlights how important it is to stay informed.
Yeah.
To ask questions, and to be part of these conversations about the future of food.
Because ultimately the future of food is in all of our hands.
I like that.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll all be eating delicious meals made from thin air.
I'll raise a glass of air-based protein shake to that.
Cheers to that, and thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
That's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep your minds open to the possibilities.
Thanks for listening to the Nordic Venture Show. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories of innovation from the Nordics.